Welcome to Profits in Practice, the podcast where medicine meets money. Hosted by myself, Sarah Webb, Managing Director of Webb CFO, and financial strategist for physicians. We break down the numbers, decode the tax code, and help doctors build lasting wealth, one episode at a time. This episode is powered by the Specialty Healthcare Consortium. Becky, thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for the invitation.
Well, I always love having some of our team members on.
Yes.
As our Director of Healthcare Consulting, when we got connected, I'm an accountant, right? I like very specific things. I like them in a certain order. I'm pretty black and white. And you explained this chaos theory to me. And I was like, I don't like this woman and I do not like this theory. But as we've worked together and you've explained it to me, I'm like, that's what's happening. And I'm trying to take the chaos out of things. So maybe share a little bit about practice sync versus practice chaos.
Well, the interesting part of the concept, the methodology, is it's all about chaos. If we look at our lives, change is constant. It's everywhere, every day. And the chaos is relative to the change. And then if it gets bad enough, you flow into unintended consequence. And then you're ripping your hair out going, how am I going to fix this? Yeah. So this has developed for me over 30 years of working in business and in practices to look for it, find that change that's happening that's disrupting the system. And that disruption of the system is where you have to tweak the system to get it back in adjustment and to refine it.
Do you think it's always like an immediate change, or it's like the change happened 3 or 4 years ago with a practice for a variety of reasons and we're still struggling, we still have the chaos because it doesn't have to be, I always think of change as like something that happened last week or recently.
The interesting part is that most change is gradual. I mean, there are the things that happen that seem like it's overnight, but mostly it's a gradual, and then we notice. Oh, I didn't see that coming. Well, most things we don't see coming. And it goes back to the human brain being extremely habituated. We like to go on remote control. We like autopilot. We would love our systems to be the same every day, every week, every year, and we never have to do anything to fix that. That doesn't happen in life. For any of us, professionally. I know, that's professionally or in dealing with business, especially with business.
Well, when you talk about business and change, explain to me why it needs to be like a system-wide fix versus like Becky needs to do this job better, or like why does it have to be system-wide versus just like tweaking it along the way?
We're big into tweaking. We think we can just do a little bit. It'll cost
I'm big into tweaking.
I know, you're an accountant. I hate to tell you, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And you have to grapple with the chaos. And that's what's so challenging in a system like healthcare. That everything is about the system. It has to flow through in particular order to get a particular outcome. And Sarah, you're the queen of that. It has to flow in particular order. And when it doesn't, we think, oh, well, we'll just fix this. And it may be 2 or 3 points up the road that have to be adjusted.
So what's some of the ways that we can fix this? Because I'll probably just go along my way trying to fix it a little bit at a time versus, the system-wide. What?
The first thing you have to do is acknowledge that change is constant. And every change can potentially turn chaotic. Look for the change. And that's what I do in working with physician practice, is look for the change. Don't blame the people. Yes, we can go the route of letting people go and writing them up and on and on and on. But the truth of the matter is we're going to find there's something in the system that's upsetting the apple cart, if you will.
Yeah.
And that change will allow things to flow more smoothly once we find it and adjust for it.
Tell me a little bit about how you do that, though, besides just, I don't know, coming in and saying, everybody's got to do it my way, because that's how I would probably want to do it.
Well, that's traditionally how many consultants do it. They are hired to fix X. They come in, they look at X and they say, do it this way, we're out of here.
Right.
That is the tried and true way of doing things because it just adjusts for where it hurts. But truly the problem is the flow upstream somewhere, if you will, and it's coming down and creating this mess. And you're going to go directly back to the problem, go directly back to the issue. 6 weeks, 2 months, it will revert. So this method takes a look at confidential interview process with all the stakeholders. And at that point in time, there will be key themes that emerge. Classically, 3 to 5 themes are going to show up. And due to the confidential nature, people will slow down, they'll open up, and they'll trust because I never use names. I never use direct quotes. And I roll it all together and I look for the themes. And the themes,
And what are some of the common themes?
you never know.
Okay. Oh, the themes of the interview, not like the themes practice to practice. Yeah.
You know, some of it is he said, she said. Some of it is, oh, they get preferential treatment. Some of it is that, well, we just do it the way they want us to do it. Well, then how do you do it? Well, they don't do it the way that we do it. Our office is different from theirs. And so you start seeing the profile of, okay, this is the inconsistencies are there. And most of this methodology is about looking for standardization of process.
Do you ever feel through these interviews like leadership has thinking it's one problem and then the staff are saying it's another problem and either they're both right or they're both wrong or they're just looking at it differently?
It's all of that.
Okay.
It's all of that. And the important theme that you pull out of that is that they have to be in agreement about how it's done because it has to be done one way, hence standardization. And everyone's doing their slice of it. And it can turn into a mess and affect the bottom line dramatically.
Yes. And I mean, that's, as the accountant, right, that is kind of what I am focused on. But I mean, it also just sounds like a terrible place to work when you're in this level of chaos. If this is your everyday environment, sometimes what I see is high turnover, right? Like, why can't we keep someone in this role? And it's not, so like, sometimes it's a people problem. You hired the wrong person but sometimes I'm like, I mean, if you're on your 4th person for that role, it's probably not a hiring problem. It's a different problem. And so how do we get to the root of what that is?
Well, that's a big symptom. It's one of the themes. You see those symptoms, huge turnover, poor morale, people not showing up to work, on and on and on. And it usually is because something in the system is so broken. And it's usually because leadership and management, there's something conflictual going on. And we have to address those significant things and pull everyone into alignment because it has to be one fluid organization.
No. And when you're doing those interviews, you have this unalignment, I know it kind of depends on what the problem is, but what are some typical next steps of okay, we've identified we have these 3 big problems. Now we're going to work one problem at a time, or we're going to have a retreat and we're all going to work on it. What could that look like for some of the practices?
I usually start at the top.
Okay.
There has to be alignment with the physicians who own the practice. And many of the issues they aren't aware of. Some of them don't want to be involved with it, but they are involved with it. Sometimes it is a shoot from the hip attitude, throwing out answers to the problem and not taking the time for the significance of everything that's happening upstream. So we don't look at it closely. So I start with the physician practice, usually the ownership in a retreat. Then we go into addressing what the issues are with management and key staff. And I would say out of the theme process, the most significant thing is we stay away from people and blame.
Yeah, blame's a big piece of it. You think that's just human nature?
Our culture's big on it. It's always a negotiation, and they did it.
Yeah. And so how do you pull that out of the conversation?
We look at the system.
Okay.
We look at the things in the system, not the people. I disregard when they talk about people. It's like, okay, that will flow through as we go through all of this. But let's focus on the system and what has to be enhanced within the system to make a difference.
And as much as I love systems, I do, where can there be flexibility in the system? We were chatting with a practice manager, and it's like, yes, you want a system because that's what ultimately your patients need, right? Like they need predictability. They need a system that they can work through, as well as the physicians of how things are working. But how do you allow some flexibility in these systems to still deliver the patient care that's needed?
There has to be a baseline in the system that is
Okay.
the same for everyone. And you talk about the physicians, you talk about the patients. Let's talk about the staff.
Hmm.
They are fodder for the middle of the road, and that's where many times burnout and blame and quitting. I've gone to practices that have 50% turnover in 12 months.
Yeah.
And no one knows how to work the system because no one has been there long enough to know how to present things in a manner that works.
Yeah. Or something has changed in the system that existed is no longer relevant for a variety of, right? Like going through a new EMR, or it shouldn't change the baseline of the system, but it changes a lot of the clicks and the training and this person, oh, that person always turned the left widget, this way, and we don't know how to do that anymore. We don't even have a left widget anymore.
Well, the truth of the matter is every time we do a system upgrade,
Mm.
it changes things significantly. It wipes out preferences. And everyone, including the physicians, pretty much start from scratch, rebuilding their preferences into the system. It's quite the irritating glitch, as far as I can see. But it's about working with those people that it is a predictable outcome in their day. That lessens the stress. That stops the blame.
Yeah. One of the stories you had shared with me is about, like the surgical tray setup. What was it? One practice had like 19 different ways and y'all narrowed it down to 6. Like, is that a common,
I had 27
27.
ways of setting up a tray in an exam room to see a patient. And there were 17 doctors, and they all had their different preferences. And the truth of the matter is, no staff person could learn all those preferences. So staff would work a few months and then quit. So it's simplifying that. We reduced it down to 6 pathways, and it was great for staff.
But how does that compensate for system versus preferences? You use that word. Like, how are you talking to physicians about, I don't know. I feel like I'm like talking to my children of like, is that a need or a want, right? How do you have those conversations? Because there are a lot of preferences, and some of them are preferences, and then some of them are like, this is the medical protocol, right? I mean, how are you working with physicians to help them really get to the bottom of that?
The first question, is it a preference or is it a protocol? And the physicians will stand around and look at you and start laughing. It's like, well, I guess that's my preference. And we could be more flexible on that. And yeah, I get it. Maybe 3 or 4 ways of doing that would be better for setup for staff. And my point to them is you have to give staff a break. They are trying to serve a lot of masters in their daily routine, and it becomes an impossibility. And there are easier places to work, so they go elsewhere.
Talk to me a little bit about feedback loops.
Feedback loops. Well, when we create a system, we have to also create checks and balances. We have to create reporting. What does the report look like? When do we pull the reports? How often do we examine the reports? Are we doing a month-end close? Or is it something very important like timely filing deadlines we're setting on end-of-day close to make sure we got all of our billing out? Did the doctors sign all their charts? Oh, yes, I talked to the doctors about that. Those are the things that are very important to keep the flow going, and that's where you often see disruption.
So you're thinking of a feedback loop. I want to say it's not always a checklist, but it's something to like make sure that the process is done. Either
Yes.
it's able to move to the next step, or it could be a checklist. Like, yes, this got done. Yes, this got done.
I call it a day-end close.
Okay.
I call it every department needs to look at things, especially when we're dealing with expensive drug. And we're pulling it out and we're connecting it to a patient. Are we sending it through to billing? Did we do the prior auth? Is all of it lined up? And boom, we bill it and we can collect our money. And there are about 6 stages in that. If we mess up any of those, we're not getting paid, and it becomes substantial.
Well, and that's definitely from an accounting standpoint. I'm always looking at the bottom line.
That's why you love me in the chaos, Sarah.
I don't love the chaos, but I mean, I think sometimes we want practices to be sustainable. We want them to be profitable so that they
Totally.
can continue serving patients and their staff, right? It's a whole ecosystem of people interdependent on each other. And when practices aren't sustainable and profitable, they're not able to do the work that they want to do.
That's it. That's it.
I guess kind of how does that, how do you take your the chaos theory and, apply that of just, I feel like I just want like a magic wand of like, this is done.
Everybody wants that, but it's a lot of hard work, and people slap a Band-Aid on things way too often. And they get these recurring loops, if you will, these cycles. It's like, it happened again. Oh my God, it has to be staff's fault. It has to be DMR's fault. It's like, let's look at the system. What has changed here? I quite often will go into a business that started out as a 1 and 2 doc shop, and they've grown. 15 to 20 docs. It's a thriving multi-million-dollar business, and they're doing some of the same things they did as a 2-doc shop. And they say, well, that's how we've always done it. And it's like, oh no, okay, that's a big theme. So you have to start and examine each of the changes that are necessary, and it'll start telling a story of the things we need to change to be a state-of-the-art practice.
What are some of the symptoms, if you will, of when a practice would want to, work with our team or work with you? What are some of the these are some of the common symptoms that we see that it's really time for you to reach out for help of a third party?
Well, I mean, the biggest red flag is falling revenue. Right?
Yeah.
But you're going to start seeing lots of chaotic behavior. Their morale, people don't care. They're driving tons of overtime. And there's conflict everywhere. And there's blame everywhere. And then it finally comes to either top-level management or to the physicians. And all they say is mess. And then you have significant issue when it starts hitting the bottom line. And the methodology I use, let's go through the system. Let's get it in place. Let's review the systems. Let's do the feedback loops. Then let's monitor it daily, weekly, monthly. And let's do an annual review of everything to see if there's something else we need to upgrade. The point is, I want every practice I work with to not need me. I know, I'm an unusual consultant.
You want to be able to say, you're in good shape by now.
Well, yes, and let's review all of this nonsense in a year. And let's see what has happened. Did the system remain stable? Were there significant changes? I don't want to walk into a practice and say, oh yeah, we haven't reviewed our HR manual in 11 years.
There's a lot of HR things that have changed in 11 years.
That's it. There's a lot of everything in healthcare that's changed in 11 years. But those are the things that happen. And also people fail to write them down. They don't write their processes down. So when new people come on board, they can never replicate the process. It's, well, so-and-so trained me. And she said that's how they've always done it. And so you're back in the loop.
And I'm like, well, so-and-so is not here. And the person that trained them was a thief, or, you're like, it's like a monkey, telephone, I guess is probably what it is.
That's so much of what we do. That's so much of what we do.
Well, I'm excited for the practices that we're working with. I think you're different than me, which is good. I know not everybody wants to work with an accountant all the time, but I think what we bring to practices is a holistic view, right? Ours, the accounting team, we're able to say, okay, here's some common metrics, here's some things that you're missing. Have you looked at X, Y, and Z? And I think what you're bringing to the practice is, yes, that finance there is important, but your overall system will help your finances. And so if we can iron out some of these things that you're struggling with in your system, we can instantly make this better.
And acknowledge that people are one messy tribe. And you take the adaptation from everyone's family of origin and you're pulling it into your business. And to adapt and have everyone get along, there really have to be rules of the road. And the systems feed that so everyone can calm down without blame. And that's why you call me in, is to keep the messiness down. And see, then they've got you on the back end dealing with all the accounting stuff going, hey, look at us. We're profitable.
Yeah, we're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'm excited that we have this offering for clients, and I know it's going to be great. I know we're already working with a few clinics and, having difficult conversations, honestly, is where we are in the process. And part of the process is understanding where you are before you can go to that next step. And I think that's where we are with a few.
That's it. And having things be very confidential, having the practices, the ownership know that we're not there for a long time. We're there to give them the essentials and teach them how to run things.
Yeah.
Makes all the difference.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for being on the podcast today, and I'm excited to keep working together.
Absolutely.
Thanks for tuning in to Profits in Practice. If you found today's episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow physician. Your financial wellness is just as important as your patient's health, and we're here to help you thrive. Connect with us via our website, webbcfo.com, and connect with our guest at sh-consortium.com to find out more about the consortium.